All righty, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Resilient Real Estate Agent. Today, we have an amazing guest here today who is going to be sharing her story of resiliency, overcoming addiction to build a successful real estate business. And I think one of the things that's most inspiring for me with Tava's story, and we'll obviously share that in a minute, is just that it's never too late to turn things around and it's never too late to create something awesome. She's going to be sharing her story and some of the tips, tricks, tools, strategies, whatever you want to call it, that have helped her overcome to become an even more powerful human being. So I'm super excited to share her story today. By the way, before we get into this, if you guys are getting something out of this content, make sure you're liking, subscribing, leaving us some comments, letting us know, how these conversations are impacting you so we know what to do more of to help support you and your growth as you develop your own sort of resiliency. So with that, Allison, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce Tava today.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Well, you guys, I met Tava in a class that Dan and I were hosting. And once I met her, I knew that we needed to have her on the podcast. I'm super excited for her to share her story about how she became really a very authentic person through her resiliency. And you guys are definitely going to want to stick around because she's survived trauma, she has overcome an addiction, and she is now a resilient real estate agent. And so welcome, Tava, to the show. Tell us a little bit about your story. What was the pivotal point where you were like, you know what, I'm maybe I've hit rock bottom and it's time to do something different?
It's funny you hit on addiction, so we can just start there. I am an alcoholic, raging alcoholic, actually. Just happened to be in recovery, which, in my opinion, is the way to go. And that's where actually a lot of my healing came from. So when we're dumbing it down, nothing good comes of it. And it was a response to a lot of things. I did grow up in a cult. And I was systematically molested through that time. And I didn't know this, you guys. I found out a little bit before I became a real estate agent. And that's only been a little over 3 years now. And
That you didn't know you were in a cult?
the
Or that you
cult
didn't
came a
know?
little beat prior.
Okay.
I'm like, this is not aligning with how I feel, like what I believe. And it took getting sober, doing the work, getting into this business, and then things were revealed, right?
Mm.
And
Wow.
I guess at that point, my body decided I was healthy enough to figure that out. And the best part of it is parts of my life and how I am and how I respond to things came to light. So then you get to work on them, which is the best thing, right? So I don't even know where we're going with this we have a whole bunch of things to hit.
Well,
So just remind me.
yeah. So, I think that, there's so many different directions that we could go with it, right? Like even
Yeah.
just that little part, I'm like, well, I want to ask about this and this and this and this, but I think just to keep things moving in the direction of, if we put it into the context of what this show is called, the Resilient Real Estate Agent, and I think just setting the table, and you've already done a decent job of that, of, hey, you had this trauma in your life. Let's just leave it at that. You've already kind of talked a little bit about what that is. Ultimately led you into a space where you developed an addiction, and there was a moment at some point where you were like, I don't want to live like this anymore. Can you tell us a little bit about like, because there might be somebody listening to this who's actually dealing with addiction right now, right? And you know, what was that aspect of it like for you? How did you get to the point when you finally said enough's enough? And what happened within you that allowed you to make the shift? Because that's where the biggest problem is for most people, right? I eat too much sugar, or I don't work out enough, or it's the moment where we have to decide to do something different that makes all the difference in the world. So what happened for you in that moment? How were you able to overcome when so many are not able to do that?
I think it comes down to getting sick of your own shit. I mean, there's no other answer, at least for me, right? And that stuck with me through even now, right? Like, I'm not liking how this is going. I'm sick of it. Well, uh, then there's some type of change has to occur. And in saying that, I feel like the human condition is hope.
Mm.
Mm,
And
So what do you mean by that?
the hope of something better. Like, why go on if there isn't hope for something better, or hope that you can change? And starting with that small speck of hope, and then you make a choice and it glows a little bit brighter, right? That each time you're making those good choices, or even if you're down in the muck, because it happens, to all of us, that clinging on to the hope and knowing the hope in yourself too, besides things getting better, is huge.
that
What
is
was
huge.
there something specifically that you were holding on to on the front end? You talk about hope. What were you hoping for?
A better life, a life that I'm not, boozing it up and letting life pass me by. I mean, I was just this shell, and it takes a lot away from you. On the other hand, I will say that I wouldn't change it for anything. I wouldn't change my upbringing. I wouldn't change pretty much anything about it, because each piece contributed to who I am today. And I like me today,
That's
which is
beautiful.
a huge difference than 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So they're gifts.
So, would you say that you were able to find the gold like through the recovery, through like hitting rock bottom and then getting sick of your shit, that you are now that you're in this place where you are finding your resiliency and you are sober, that is that why you can look back and say, I'm grateful for where I've come from, because you see that there's gold in some of the struggle.
There's gold in every struggle. And I feel like once you start looking for it, you find more.
Mm.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you find more. And all of a sudden you might shift from looking at the world and lack all of a sudden into abundance. And that's when you just, double down and start looking for all the good things.
You guys,
Right?
this is really good. Like, I'm feeling really emotional because this is really good stuff. I hope that the listeners understand and see that, like, for those of you out there that are struggling, that, to have that hope and to be able to know that there is something more. I just want to say, when we were talking off of the podcast, you had mentioned something about how fear is motivating. And you said at some point you just have to jump. Was there any hope linked to that, or was that just pure like, I don't want to be here anymore, so I want to jump into something different?
There, and I would say even life now, right? That, okay, is the fear of what you're doing more, like, is that any worse than jumping into a fear that might be like rocketing you forward?
Right.
right? Like, I personally, I get stuck in the fear and the anxiety and all these things, and it doesn't feel good. And I have to do this thing. Well, I could spend time marinating in that, or I could just jump into it and it feels equally scary. But again, it goes back to the hope,
Right.
right? There's hope in that. Marinating in my own junk, like, it just gets worse.
Right. And it's a waste of time and energy, right?
Yeah.
And there's that saying out there, you can, what is it? You can deal with the pain of regret, or the pain of like doing the work. I don't know exactly. I butchered that, but you know what I mean, right? Like you can either do the work and it's a little painful, or you can regret not doing the work and that's way more painful. But I'm kind of curious, like thinking about the reality is that usually on the front end, things we don't know what's going to come out the other side, right? We're talking a 10-year journey that you've been on here. So, in the moment where you decided it was time to jump, how was your mindset different then? Like, if you go back to that time, what are the things that you're telling yourself then versus if you were in that same position today? How might you handle it differently? In other words, um, there's somebody right now who might be in that position where you were 10 years ago, and they're looking forward going, well, yeah, but Tava's got it all figured out. Yeah, but Tava didn't have it figured out 10 years ago, right? Tava's been working on this for 10 years. This is a journey. It's not like you figure it out and you've got all the answers and that's why you're so special. That's not the case. Like you had to work through something. So what was it like for you then? And how did you have to kind of manipulate your own mindset to learn everything that you've learned over the last 10 years.
Well, you have to want to.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
desire.
yeah, the desire needs to be there. And when I first got sober for the last time, by the way, guys, last time. Like, this girl didn't do one round in rehab. Um,
Awesome.
it's murky, right? Everything's unclear. You've not been living in the present world. You don't even know how to be mindful except where your next drink's coming from. And I always knew where I was going to figure out a way. And so as you go on, you just build upon the day before or the decision before. Or if the last decision was trash, well, trash it. Go back to the last decision and continue on that path, right? It's not just this, oh, I make good choices all the time. Absolutely not. Right. And there's some grace for yourself and grace for others. And I'm not always good at that.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate what you just said. Two things right there. It's murky. I don't care if you're dealing with addiction or you're trying to fix a relationship or you're working on your health or you're working on your business. On the front end, it's murky. That's such a great description of it. You don't know where you're going exactly. You don't know exactly what it looks like. You might have hope for the future. You know you want change, but that doesn't mean you have the answers and it doesn't mean that anything is clear. You just have to get out there and start working through all the muck to eventually find some of the answers. The other thing that I heard you say is the G word, grace. Grace. I am getting better, but especially early on in my journey of growth and development, which actually started about 10 years ago. I was in a very different place. But I was terrible at giving myself grace. You should have it all figured out right by now. What's wrong with you? Why don't you? How come everybody else has it figured out? And da 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 da. First of all, they don't. Nobody does. So, we can drop that one. But you have to give yourself grace. Like if you are struggling right now, which if you're watching this, you are, because we all are, we're all dealing with something. Give yourself some freaking grace. It's supposed to be murky. That's part of the journey. That's where the growth comes. And give yourself grace so that you can, you know, muddle through it,
Yeah,
survive. Right.
absolutely.
So, I think one of the other things that really stands out to me that's kind of along these same lines, and I'm just making a few notes here so that we can come back at the end and kind of bring some of these ideas together. But, um, you know, um, one of the things that I think impresses me the most about you is um, that you look back. My experience of you is that you look back at these negative things that could define people in a specific way. And you're saying that I choose to have these things not define me, but I choose to look at these things and say these things have shaped me. And these bad things that have happened um, are actually stepping stones and they make me a stronger person. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did you get to that place? Because once again, I don't, it's not like it just happens. You have to work to get to that place. Like, what did that process look like? Or what do you do on a daily basis to stay in that place?
It's a good question.
It is. I'm wondering, it just feels like perception, right? And being vulnerable and like real with yourself and authentic and delving in because we can shape any one event many different ways. Many people have their own perception on a singular event. So I have control over me most of the time. And so, like, why stick in this victimhood and I'm gonna, survive this? Like, it's just bullshit. Like, it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve my family. If we're talking about real estate, it doesn't serve my clients. Like, why sit in that space? So, and I genuinely believe that I am a better person. If these things didn't happen, I wouldn't have worked on myself,
Mm.
right? There would have been no need. So I don't think I would like to meet that version of Tava, actually.
Wow. So
This
powerful.
this version of Tava gets to be supportive and a safe place and empathetic and compassionate that accepts you for who you are. And I don't, no, I know that wouldn't have been me without all of these different events. And yes, I had addiction, like I was in addiction, but I also chose that too after a certain point.
Yeah.
So it was easier until it wasn't.
Mm.
So that self-compassionate part of you, is that the authentic piece? I'm curious, you talked a lot about, or you have talked a lot about authenticity. Because you're authentic, you are attracting clients that you really like and that
Mhm.
are in alignment with you. So is that compassionate part, is that part of the authenticity?
It can be, or maybe it's just acceptance.
Mm, yeah.
Or yeah, I don't know one person who hasn't been touched by addiction in one, shape. One, I don't even know. One way or another, they've been touched. So there is compassion there. But the authenticity, I think, is just recognizing that, first of all, it's self love, right? That's the highest form
Oh,
of
yeah.
self love.
You're
To
saying
stay
authenticity is
to stay true to yourself. Absolutely. I feel like that's the biggest way you can honor yourself.
Mm.
And I realized not everyone's gonna like me, but I don't really particularly like everyone either. So, and that's okay, just as long as that respect's there. But in doing that, I have the best clients. Like, argue with me. Like, I have the best clients. And I think that's because I can show up as me and I'm not always trying to figure out the right thing to say or how to show up. Like, I get to show up as me. And then that's it.
and it naturally attracts a certain person to you that you happen to resonate with.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we've talked a lot about, you and you making your transition. One of the things that you had said to us when we were talking offline was you had mentioned that no one's coming to save you.
No.
And and You know what I think is interesting about that is that you can take that sentence two ways. No one's coming to save you, you're all alone. Or no one's coming to save you, you got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps, but there's a community of people to help you. So I'm just kind of curious, when you were coming out of and starting to, coming out of addiction, moving into kind of this new life that you wanted to create for yourself. Obviously, you had people who were supporting you, who were helping you, who were advising you, showing you new ways of doing things and seeing the world and all of this kind of stuff. You were seeking out help somewhere. I can't help but imagine you had a community of people that were helping you. What does that look like? Like, if somebody's in that position where they do feel totally alone, or they do feel like, um, no one's coming to save me, and it's making them depressed instead of like, okay, well, I need to go get help because I got to save myself. What might you say to them, or what was that part of your journey like? How did other people help you? How did your community help you move forward? And how did you find those people?
Well, saying you're all alone in whatever it is, um, yeah, that can be taken a bad way, but I feel like it's also a really powerful spot. Like, you're it, baby cakes. Like, it's a position of power, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Like, it's very powerful to be like, oh, no one's gonna save me. My mama and dad's love's not gonna save me. Like it's and it begins with like that spark of hope, like that of like just hanging on to that bit of self-love. Um, but in finding a community, it's really powerful because it's it's nonsense if you think you're alone in any one situation in your life, not even regarding what we're talking about. Like you're never alone. Like someone has experienced the exact feeling that you have now. And so it's about like getting together with those people and not just those people per se, but it's about getting together with people that have had that feeling or have that feeling and are doing something about it,
Yeah.
right? Like hang out. I think our parents always told us, like, hang out with good people, but it's true, right? People that you admire that have a little something that you might want. And then you can emulate that for a while until it is real for you.
And how did you do that? How'd you go find those people?
The start of well, the start of it, I would say I did go to AA. So I did that whole entire community thing. I am not really active in that community whatsoever. I've found various things to support where I'm at now, but it was a good bouncing off place for me. But it's a scary word, AA,
Yeah, I can imagine.
right? Like you hear it and you're like, oh yeah, those people, it's, but those people are pretty great, especially when you're coming out of something that, yeah, if you feel alone, it's scary. And maybe you build on the hope of other people. Like they got through it. I can't.
Yes.
And they're people. They're people. They're just people that are going through their own challenges. You can label it all you want, but they're just people going through a specific kind of challenge. And the
Yep.
reality is, for me, it was depression, right? And so I had to get around people who moved me forward away from depression. If I would have hung out with a bunch of people that were depressed all the time, it would have made things way worse. But there was a moment in my life, just like you talk about, where I decided that's it. I'm not doing this shit anymore. I want to get better. And it was in that moment that I put my big boy pants on and I said, I've got to figure this out. Who can I talk to? Where can I go? Who can help me? And I feel like a lot of times, if somebody's watching this and they're struggling with anything in their life, that we've already talked about a lot of different things you could be struggling with. Maybe it's just a lack of business in real estate, right? And you're wondering if you should leave the industry. Maybe it's just that. Who can help you? Who is around you? If you're really serious about improving your life, you will find the resources because they are there. They are around. But we have to be open to going out and finding them if we're ever going to find them. It's really, really hard to find something if you're not looking for it.
Yeah, you have to be in the solution.
Yes. Oh, that's a great one right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is. And also have the desire, like you talked about.
Because
Yeah.
we get something out of everything, right?
Yeah.
whatever it is, right?
Mm.
So today, you're running a successful real estate business. I'm sure I'm sure you would argue it could always be better. That's just everybody, right?
Yeah.
But I would say you're running a successful real estate business, especially in an industry where 71% of people did 0 deals last year. um, you're doing something right. And I would imagine that there's still those moments where you wake up and you're just like, ugh, I don't want to work today, or I don't want to be positive today, or, whatever it is. I know I have those days. What do you do today on a regular basis to help keep yourself moving forward and moving in the right direction, focused on what matters? Like, how do you stay resilient today on a day-to-day basis?
Well, you're in the wrong business if you can't be your own cheerleader. Truly, like, go pick another profession because it's not going to work. But I think it's going back to your why for me.
Ooh.
Things get heavy. It's life. Yes, we're going to have seasons of everything, but going back to my why, actually, I have goosebumps. Like, that's what's important.
What's
You
your
know,
why?
my why is my family. Like, my why, actually, let's back up, is for me. Like, number one is my why. Outside of that, it's my family. And that's why I got into this. I want to volunteer. I want to be able to pick up my kids from school and go to baseball, and they're sick. You know what? No problem, buddy. And that's my why. Like, let's build something big so that maybe they start at a different, you know, up here maybe, and then they can go find their why. But I'm supporting that. And we can talk about fiscally, sure. We don't get into real estate thinking we're not going to make anything. Um, but building toward that and keeping it in mind is probably the number one thing I can do, besides loud music. That
What
like,
what kind
music's
of
my
music?
jam.
What is it?
Coffee's my love language. But doing those small things for yourself, like, change that mood, change the attitude, whatever it looks like for you. Mine's a drive and good music.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
yeah.
All right. So we're starting to come up on time here. We'll do some just like final thoughts here in just a second. But before we do that, I just want to kind of go through, like I said, I've been taking some notes as you go through this, and you've got your you got really good one-liners. You had a couple of them in here. I like it. Um, so I just want to kind of go through some of the highlights. Number one, the beginning of our journey is murky. It's always murky. If it's not murky, you're comfortable. And if you're comfortable, that's when things get really ugly, right? So it's supposed to be murky. If it's murky and uncomfortable, you're in the right spot. Welcome. That's where you should be. That's how we grow. And then give yourself grace as you're going through and you're screwing it up. That's what's supposed to happen. Um, Victimhood serves no one. So why be the victim? You give away all your power when you're the victim, and it doesn't serve anybody. When you're vulnerable, that's when your authenticity shows up. There is no authenticity without vulnerability, which who's the lady that talks all about her whole thing is
Oh,
vulnerability?
Brene Brown.
Brene Brown. Yeah. That one's huge. Um, uh, the challenges in my life are what make me compassionate. That's a good one. You know, Ed Milet says that we're most, what is it? We are the most equipped to help the person that we used to be. That's compassion. So without the challenges, without the struggles, where's your compassion? It's hard to find it because you don't understand the challenges other people are going through. Acceptance is the antithesis to victimhood. If we can accept where we're at right now, we're no longer a victim. This is where I am. Let's move forward. What am I going to do about it? And being true to yourself is a form of self-love and another form of authenticity as well. Like I said, there's a lot of them here. No one's going to save me. Understanding that and leaning into that is actually builds power. That's how we stand in our power, when we know that we are the solution to our own problem. And then find the people who inspire you and emulate what they're doing, and then go find new people that are inspiring you. If you want to grow, you will go find your community who can help you. And then, all right, a couple more. Be in the solution. If you want to solve the problem, be in the solution. And also, if you're going to be in this business of real estate, you got to be your own cheerleader. Yeah, I can get behind that one. When all seems lost and you don't know what the heck to do, go back to your why. Why am I running through the fire? Why am I putting myself through this? What is it that is actually motivating you to move forward? If you can put your finger on that and clarify that, you can always come back to that in your weakest moments. And I would also argue, go to your community. Well, first of all, if anybody wants to reach out to you, would you be okay if they reached out to you? What would be an easy way for them to connect with you?
Please do. Absolutely. Text or call me. My phone, if I don't want to hear a call, obviously I it's on silent, but I will always get back to you. My number's 303-579-2120. And I do mean it. Reach out.
Yeah.
It
Thank
just
you.
takes one little reach out, and then you'll get a whole bunch of hands helping you out.
Yeah. You want it, you'll do it, right? Let's just do a final thought. Like, what's one thing that you might want to leave the listeners with? Maybe one piece of advice or something somebody told you that really has helped you when you were, in your toughest moments. Yeah, just one final thought that you want to leave everybody with. A really simple question.
Right? For being great at one-liners, apparently it's not,
You used them all up.
yeah, maybe. Uh, I think it's just be true to yourself. Be true to yourself in your business. Be true to yourself in life. And I feel like really good things come out of that because you have the answers in you.
Love that. Allison, any final thoughts before
Well,
we
yeah,
wrap up?
a couple. So when's your book coming out?
Oh, well, the next year. They say do what you fear, so I'll just go do
You
that.
you really could write a book. It's and also you should probably start a bumper sticker side hustle because all of your one-liners are pretty awesome. No, really, you're incredibly inspiring. I'm like, when are we gonna go get coffee together? Because you have a lot to share and you have a lot of wisdom, and what you have been through was not easy, and you really have taken the bull by the horns, and you have been able to ride it and bridle it and make it your own. And I'm just really, really glad that we met each other.
I am too. Thank you.
Yeah. And the final thing I'll say, just piggybacking off of Allison, is, I'm always, what inspires me about people who, everybody experiences challenges in their life. The experience of our life is how we react to those challenges. And I'm always inspired by people who look at the things that could have broken them and completely destroyed them and beaten them down into nothing, and said, you know what, enough's enough. And I'm going to turn my life around. I don't care what the challenge is. Some of them are harder to overcome than others, right? Some of you are going through those challenges right now, and thinking, yeah, it's easy for you to say because you've never had to deal with any challenges. No, that's not the case at all. No, we get to choose how we respond to those challenges, and that's what is so inspiring to me about your story, Tava. Is at some point you decided, no, I want something better for my life, and you did it. And if you can do it, everyone watching this can do it, because we are all essentially the same person, We're all
We're a
really,
collective whole. We are. And literally, if I can do it, anyone can. I mean, yeah.
yeah. I love that. Well, we'll leave it right there. That was perfect. We're the collective whole. I like that. Yeah, awesome. So once again, guys, we just want to say thank you for watching the podcast. Please like and subscribe. Check us out online. We've got all sorts of classes, virtual classes and things like that we're teaching, all based on resiliency for real estate agents. So if this is something you want to practice, you want to get tied in with a community, we're here. We're easy to find. Tava is easy to find. you can't use the excuse that you don't have anybody to help you anymore, because you already have 3 people right here. So we've already crossed that one off the list. So Tava, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. And thank you all of you for watching. We will see you the next time on The Resilient Real Estate Agent.
Bye.
Bye.